Chopping, dicing, scooping, mashing, the clanging of spoon against glass and the knocking of knife against wood fills the room. The subtle string picking of the guitar from the radio dances in the background. The aroma of fresh ingredients and potent spices fills the kitchen. I wander through the doorway to find my dad at the counter, making guacamole. I take a mental photograph of this display. Although my dad cooks every weekend for the family, there is always something special about the way he whips up homemade guacamole. A sparkle in his eye lights up as he concentrates on the food in front of him. I imagine he is repeating the recipe over and over again in his head. It is important to him that the whole thing is just right. Every hand stroke is perfected, and every ingredient is added in unique progression. I notice his skill of culinary practice and is rhythmic, like a metronome ticking to the speed of a piano piece. As I gaze in awe at this chef-like procedure, I think back to what had happened earlier this sunny day. It had started when my dad wasn't particularly impressed with my attitude and teenage behavior. You see, he has high expectations for me and challenges me daily to fulfill his standards. I understand that he is preparing me for life on my own. He wants to raise me to be a positive, hardworking, caring young woman. He always says, if you believe in yourself and work hard to the best of your ability, you will succeed. And yes, I take that to heart and try to follow it. But sometimes I lack the motivation, and he becomes disappointed. Like today, when he got a letter in the mail from my school. It was proof that my grades aren't fantastic. I don't think they're bad grades. I mean, for an average high school student, getting a C in honors class isn't terrible. But it sure wasn't good enough for my dad. As expected, he sat me down at the table, glared me straight in the eye, and asked, "How do you explain this?" This is my weakness, defending myself when he is upset with me. Honestly, I'm a very emotional person. It nearly scares me to tears, like a little puppy in trouble for breaking the rules, when the tone of his voice turns so serious and dissatisfied. Somehow, I lose the ability to speak clearly. Therefore, he never fully understands my side of the story and assumes the worst. So, I sat there like a criminal on trial. I only answered questions when asked specifically. I listened to his interpretation of the situation and what I need to do to fix this now if I want privileges. Then, he went on tangents of other things he noticed in my behavior and how it was unacceptable for a girl like me. He spoke as if he knew exactly what was wrong in my life and how to change it to prove my personality. I intently paid attention, but I know that if I open my mouth to defend myself, my voice becomes shaky instead of strong. It usually ends in tears, or me storming off to my room to be alone. Today, it went both ways. I tried to tell him I understood, and I planned to get better grades, but it turned into an attitude about how he had no right to tell me who I am, and how ridiculous his high expectations are. Towards the end of my shouting, I began to cry, and he could only hear high-pitched blubbers rather than words. At that point, I knew it was useless, so I marched straight to my room, slamming the door shut. An hour later, with red eyes and a headache, I appear in the doorway of the kitchen watching my dad mash avocados. He acts like nothing had just happened. This is why I believe in homemade guacamole. Not just because it tastes delicious, but it is simply amazing how quickly guacamole can lighten a troubled mood. When I join my dad in mixing the ingredients, we find ourselves enjoying each other. Cooking is the one hobby my dad and I both love doing together, because it brings delight and peace into the family. It fills in the gaps between our friendship as father and daughter. It has developed into tradition to make homemade guacamole together, regardless of how our relationship is going. In the end, our lives are generally happier, so making guacamole is truly a peacemaker.